Hello and welcome to my channel Polyglot Reading. Today I'm going to respond to the Bella Italia tag. And this tag was created by Daniela from the channel Uncommon Reader and by Emily from the channel Emily Clarice Pessoa, who also tagged me. Thank you for that. So why is this a Bella Italia tag? Is it a tag about Italian authors? No, it isn't. That is, not necessarily. The idea behind this tag is as follows. On the northern hemisphere, January can be a very melancholic, almost depressing time. It's cold, gray weather, no real holidays to look forward to, so you need something to cheer you up. And what works better than thinking about beautiful Italian cities and landscapes? And so Daniela and Emily have created a list of 10 beautiful Italian cities, 10 cities that are famous for their beauty. And with each of the cities, they have associated a short motto that makes sense as a link to the city. And now I'm going to use these mottos. They have also linked them to specific literary genres. And so they're asking you to present a book that matches this motto that is linked to this Italian city. So now I'm going to take this list of 10 prompts to talk in each case about a book that is a good match to this motto. And I've tried to also find some books written by Italian authors, but only for, I think, 2 or 3 of the prompts. Okay, let's start with the first prompt. All roads lead to Rome. So for this prompt, I was asked to present a book of the history genre or history novel. As a great example of a historical novel that is also situated in Italy, not in Rome, but at least in northern Italy and in southern Italy. It's the novel Tutti i nostri ieri, or All Our Yesterdays, by Natalia Ginzburg. I think it was also published in English once under a different title, A Light for Fools. So this is not just this novel, it's a collection of Natalia Ginzburg's most important literary works in Italian by the publisher Mondadori. It also contains this novel, Tutti i nostri ieri, All Our Yesterdays. Natalia Ginzburg is one of my favorite Italian authors. She lived from 1916 to 1991. And she has a connection to Rome. It's not her native city. I think she was born in Torino, but she lived in Rome during the final decades and years of her life. Okay, and this book is about two middle-class families and their life from the 1930s on, first in the northern part of Italy. These families are neighbors, so there is a small difference in social status and wealth between the families, but not that much. So it doesn't keep them from becoming close friends with each other. In particular, the children of these two families, they really become friends. And the story is told mostly from the perspective of one girl among these children. It's told by Anna, member of one of the two families. And Anna and also her siblings and the friends, they have a couple of challenges to deal with. So Anna has a couple of brothers, and some of them are politically active and involved in the resistance movement against the fascist regime. Anna becomes pregnant by Juma, one of the sons of the neighboring family. And during the final stages of the war, she has to move to rural southern Italy, where she has to learn totally different way of living. It's a story about a disillusioned and challenged generation that nevertheless managed to maintain a will for life, humor, charity, and at least some of them also some key moral values. Okay, let's move on to the second prompt. Where art thou? Wherefore art thou, Verona? So I'm asked to present a romance book or literary fiction about ill-fated lovers. And for this prompt, I would like to present a book about ill-fated lovers. It's the novel Two on a Tower by Thomas Hardy, one of my favorite Victorian writers, and in this nice edition from the 1920s. The Victorian period was a time where, in particular, the differences in social rank, they led to many tragic situations. And in Victorian literature, there are ill-fated lovers galore. So, what is this novel about? The wealthy but unhappily married Lady Constantine falls, falls in love with Swithin St. Cleeve, who is a poor orphan and amateur astronomer who is not only far below her rank, but also 10 years her junior. And so this is sort of an ill-fated lovers couple. The story has a couple of spectacular elements, such as a husband reported dead on an expedition in Africa, a secret marriage, an unexpected legacy with bizarre terms and conditions, and a lot of village gossip, a hot-tempered brother, and a vain bishop, and of course, a melodramatic ending like in an Italian opera. Prompt number 3, Florence, brushstrokes and Botticelli, books about art, music, or artists. I was struggling a little bit with this one, so I broke the rules, and I'm not presenting a book about an artist in the actual close sense, strict sense, but about a protagonist who has many character traits that sometimes also are associated with artists. It is a book about an exceptionally gifted professional chess player whose whole thinking and whole life are focused on the game of chess, which makes him almost unsuitable for life, a victim of selfish fellow human beings, but also puts him in grotesque situations. I think we can play professional and very gifted chess players among the artists because it's a sort of an art, a performance art. So I've talked about the book without quoting the author and the title, but I think you've been able to see it. So it's the novel Lushin's Defense, or in German, Luschins Verteidigung, by the Russian-American author Vladimir Nabokov. Luschin's Defense, about a very gifted, talented chess player. Okay, number 4, Sicily, Myths of Mount Etna, mythology, fantasy, and science fiction book. For this prompt, I've selected one of the classics of early science fiction, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. Here in the German tradition, 20,000 Meilen unter dem Meer. I don't think that I need to tell you a lot about the main plot. It's so well known. It's surely one of Jules Verne's most popular books, with adaptations for film and comics and graphic novels and whatnot. I choose this book by Jules Verne because when I was in my teenage years, Jules Verne was one of the few authors that managed to keep me binge reading all their works. The works of Jules Verne, these early science fiction futuristic books, have been very formative for my early years as a reader. Okay, moving on to number 5, the Bolognese Chronicles, food-themed books. Okay, here I'd like to present a classic of the French literature, but again in German translation, Au rebours, translated into English as Against Nature or Against the Grain, or into German by Gegen den Strich by Joris Karl Huysmans. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. So this is a story about an eccentric reclusive estate, Jean des Essaims, who detests bourgeois society. So he retreats into an entirely artificial world of his own creation. All the objects in his dwelling are carefully selected, wonderfully crafted. He's decorating the interior of his house with all the best and the most exclusive pieces of art, of literature, of manuscript, of pieces of music and musical instruments. He's taking care of scenting all the rooms differently, and of course only the most refined, ingenious food and food combinations appear on this table. And a lot of the book is really about the description of all these delicate pieces of art, about the food combinations, about all this exquisite cuisine. This book describes an orgy of the most refined sensual experiences, but it also shows that in the end, one cannot find real fulfillment in these pleasures alone. Perfecting one's sensual experiences can give one's life aesthetics, but no meaning, no goal, no fulfillment, no real purpose to live for. Moving on to prompt number 6 from Sardinia with a Love, thriller, adventure, spy books. I would like to present a classic from the English detective novel literature from the 1920s and 30s. Murder Must Advertise by Dorothy L. Sayers, here in this nice edition by the US Franklin Library. Dorothy L. Sayers was one of the 4 queens of crime in the golden age of the detective fiction in the 1920s and 1930s. Unfortunately, at least in Germany, she is almost forgotten today, but to my taste, she's as brilliant as Agatha Christie, another one of the 4 queens. And Dorothy L. Sayers wrote, so she published 11 detective novels featuring upper-class private eye Lord Peter Wimsey, a truly whimsical but highly educated person, was of extreme wealth, who solves as a hobby tricky crime cases, mostly murders, of course, and he solves them in a very unconventional way. Murder Must Advertise is not the first of the series. I think it's the 8th novel of the series, and this one I think it is particularly entertaining because here in this novel, to solve a murder in an advertising agency, Lord Peter Wimsey, who is somewhat snobbish sometimes, he starts to work in this advertising agency under the guise of a false middle class identity. So he, the wealthy, snobbish nobleman, has to adapt to the circumstances of an ordinary middle class employee. Really funny. Okay, moving on to number 7, Venice, in a gondola with Casanova, forbidden love affair books. Okay, now it's time for another book from an Italian writer. So for this prompt, I have selected Arturo, L'Isola di Arturo, Arturo's Island by Elsa Morante. A modern classic of the Italian literature, I would say. Arturo is a young half orphan, so his mother has died, and he grows up in a palace on an island. He's mostly raised by the domestic workers, same because his itinerant and eccentric father only shows up very sporadically. And it's also, the father is a very strange person. Has difficulties really to give love to his son. But everything changes when one day the father arrives on the island with a new wife, a very young, very naive, pious girl, only a few years older than Arturo. And Arturo's father behaves very, very badly, like a real scumbag. He treats his wife very cruelly, and he often departs to travel around Europe, and no one knows where and for how long. And even when his wife is pregnant and about to give birth, he's just traveling and doing a thing. So almost inevitably, a strong affection develops between Arturo and his young stepmother, between these two lonely and wounded souls, which of course plunges both of them into a great conflict. Okay, moving on to prompt number 8, Naples Never Sleeps, mystery, horror, or gothic books. Again, a classic, but one of the less known ones. And you may be surprised if I quote the title. It's Dracula by Bram Stoker. Of course, everybody knows Dracula, but when I talk to people about Dracula, I notice very frequently that most people, they know some of the movie adaptations, which are often quite different from the actual book. So if you think you know Dracula, but you have only watched the Dracula movies, it might be worth trying the original, trying to read the book. You might be surprised. Okay, number 9, Tales of Torino, La Magica. Ghosts and legend stories, novellas, short stories, plays, and folklore. Okay, I choose something that falls into the category short stories and folklore here. I would like to present Sarah Orne Jewett. It's an American writer, a New England writer, to be more precise, who I think, again, is highly underrated, not only in Europe, but also in her homeland. She has published quite a few collections of short stories and also some episodic novels. And I quote from the rear cover of this nice edition of her works in the Library of America series. I quote, Sarah Orne Jewett devoted her career to capturing, in nuanced and sharply edged fiction, the inner drama in the outwardly quiet life of New England coast towns. Set against the background of long Maine winters, hard-scrabble farms, and the sea, her stories of gruff, capable farmers and sea folk, and of the rewards and trials of family and communal ties, have a very modern resonance. Willa Cather ranked, um, uh, here the writings in this authoritative edition reveal the full stature of the unjustly neglected writer. Willa Cather ranked with Mark Twain and Nathaniel Hawthorne. An incandescence of humanity, descriptions so sharply edged you want to put them in your pocket like magic pebbles. Yeah, all true, I could not have said it better. Okay, moving on to prompt number 10, using in Milan or Milano, any genre. Okay, um, here I went for a genre that has not yet appeared in the list of prompts. I'm going to present a graphic novel. It's not set in Milano, but a couple of thousand kilometers east in Iran. I'm talking about the graphic novel Persepolis by Marianne Satrapi. This is a really touching graphic novel about growing up in the times of the so-called Islamic Revolution in Iran. It's a graphic novel that has since then also been transformed into a motion picture. And again, instead of trying to find my own words, I'm quoting from the rear cover because it's all true and in line with my own observations. The intelligent and outspoken child of radical Marxists and the great-granddaughter of Iran's last emperor, Satrapi, bears witness to a childhood uniquely entwined with the history of her country. Persepolis paints an unforgettable portrait of daily life in Iran and of the bewildering contradictions between home life and public life. This is a beautiful and intimate story full of tragedy and humor, raw, honest, and incredibly illuminating. Okay, that's it. Thanks to Daniela and Emily for creating this tag, and in particular thanks to Emily for tagging me. I would also like to tag a few booktubers, creators. I will put their names, the names of the channels in the description box. I hope that you have enjoyed my replies to these prompts, and maybe I've been able to trigger your interest in one of the books I presented. If so, let me know in the comments. I'm eager to read your comments and replies on this. Hope to see you next time. Have a great reading time. Take care. Bye bye and ciao.